The first warning came 17 seconds before the fire fell from the sky. Sergeant Maya Chun was drinking coffee in a small cafe in Shanghai when her military comm unit screamed to life. The sound cut through the morning noise of the busy street outside. She looked at the screen and saw words that made no sense. Orbital strike incoming. Seek shelter immediately. She had just enough time to look up through the cafe window. She saw a streak of light falling from the clouds. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a shooting star made of pure white fire. Then the world turned to light and heat, and she knew nothing more. Across Earth, the same scene played out in different ways. In Lagos, a teacher was walking her students to school when the sky split open. In São Paulo, a father was holding his newborn daughter in a hospital room when the walls came apart around him. In Mumbai, an old woman was feeding pigeons in a park when the ground beneath her feet turned to glass. The Valkyrie Dominion had studied humanity for 3 years before the attack. They had watched and waited and planned. They knew Earth's rotation schedule. They knew where the population centers were. They knew exactly when to strike for maximum death. 12 million humans died in the first hour. 12 million lives ended because the Valkyrie wanted Earth's resources and believed humans were too weak to stop them. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in North America, General Marcus Cole stood in the central command room of humanity's most secret military installation. The room was carved from solid rock, protected by layers of steel and concrete and energy shields. Screens covered every wall, and each screen showed horror. Cole was 63 years old. His hair had gone gray 20 years ago. His face carried scars from battles fought on distant moons. Back when humanity first ventured beyond Earth, he had served in the military for 40 years. He had seen death before. He had ordered men and women to their deaths when duty demanded it. But he had never seen anything like this. "Shanghai is gone, sir," said Colonel James Park, his voice shaking. "Direct hit on the city center. Casualty estimates are still coming in, but we're looking at 3 million dead minimum." "Lagos," said another officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Torres. Tears ran down her face, but her voice stayed steady. 2 million. Maybe more. The fires are still spreading. São Paulo, Mumbai. The strikes are still coming, sir. They're targeting everything. Cole said nothing. He watched the screens. He watched cities burn. He watched emergency services trying to respond to disasters too large to comprehend. He watched ordinary people running through streets filled with smoke and ash, searching for family members they would never find. His hands were clasped behind his back. His face showed no expression. The officers around him kept glancing at him, waiting for something. Rage, grief, orders shouted in anger. Something human. Cole gave them nothing. "Not yet." "Sir," said Colonel Park after several minutes of terrible silence, "the attacking fleet has been identified. Valkyrie Dominion. 47 capital ships in orbit. They're broadcasting a demand for immediate surrender." Cole finally spoke. His voice was quiet, calm. "Show me." A new image appeared on the main screen. An alien face looked down at them. The Valkyrie were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. This one wore elaborate military decorations on his uniform. His 4 eyes held an expression that Cole recognized immediately. Contempt. The look of someone who believed he was dealing with insects. "I am Fleet Admiral Kethrol of the Valkyrie Dominion," the alien said. The translator software made his voice sound smooth and pleasant, which somehow made it worse. "Your world now belongs to the Dominion. You have 1 hour to surrender all military assets and government leadership. If you comply, we will be merciful. If you resist, we will continue our cleansing until nothing remains. Choose wisely, humans." The message ended. The screens returned to showing burning cities. "Sir," said Colonel Park, "what do we do?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Get me a channel to their fleet commander. Direct communication. I want to speak with him personally." The officers exchanged glances. Lieutenant Torres started working at her console. "Sir, I'm not sure they'll accept." "They'll accept," Cole said. "They want to gloat. They want to hear us beg. Give them the chance." It took 4 minutes to establish the connection. 4 minutes during which another strike hit a city in Europe. 4 minutes during which the death toll climbed past 13 million. Then Admiral Cathroll's face appeared on screen again. This time, it was a live feed. The alien looked amused. "Ah," he said. "A human military commander. Have you called to discuss surrender terms? I appreciate efficiency." "No," said Cole. His voice remained calm. "Soft, even. I called to make you a promise." Cathral's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "A promise? How quaint. And what could a primitive species promise the Dominion?" Cole stepped closer to the screen. The officers in the room noticed something then. His hands, still clasped behind his back, were shaking. Not from fear, from something else entirely. Something he was holding inside with iron control. "You hit Earth first," Cole said. "I want you to understand that. I want you to remember it. When this is over, when your worlds burn, when your people weep, when your children ask their parents why the sky is falling, I want you to remember that you hit us first." Cathrall laughed. It was a harsh sound, like metal scraping against stone. "Threats? From a species that cannot even protect its own homeworld? Your bravery is amusing, human, but bravery does not win wars. Ships win wars. Weapons win wars. And you have neither in sufficient quantity to challenge the Dominion." "You're right," Cole said. "We don't have ships or weapons. Not that you've seen. Not that anyone has seen. For 60 years, we've been members of the Galactic Concord. Quiet members. Peaceful members. We've asked for nothing. We've threatened no one. Do you know why? Because you are weak," Cathrall said. "No." Cole's voice dropped even lower. "Because we were hoping we'd never need to show you what we really are. We were hoping the galaxy would leave us alone. We were hoping we could just live in peace. But you took that hope away today. You killed 12 million people who just wanted to live their lives. Teachers, doctors, children, mothers holding babies, old men feeding birds in parks." Cole paused. When he spoke again, his voice carried something that made even the hardened officers in the room feel cold. "So here is my promise to you, Admiral. I am going to dismantle your military. I am going to tear apart everything your Dominion has built. I am going to hunt down every commander who planned this attack, every officer who gave the order to fire, everyone who thought killing our children was acceptable. And when I stand over the ashes of your empire, when your surviving people ask what happened, I want you to tell them the truth. Tell them that you hit Earth first. Tell them that you woke something that was trying very hard to stay asleep. And tell them that General Marcus Cole promised you what came next." Cathrall stared at the screen. For just a moment, something flickered in his 4 eyes. Not quite fear. Not yet. But uncertainty. A crack in his contempt. Then he laughed again. "Brave words from a doomed species. I look forward to adding your skull to my collection, General. 1 hour. Surrender or die." The connection ended. The command room was silent. Every officer stared at General Cole, waiting. The screen still showed burning cities. The death toll still climbed. And their commander stood perfectly still, his face carved from stone. "Colonel Park," Cole said finally. "Sir? Send the activation codes to all hidden installations. Shipyards, defense platforms, weapons caches. All of them. Authorization code Prometheus. Park's eyes went wide. Sir, that will reveal everything we've built. 60 years of, I know what it will reveal. Cole turned to face his officers. For the first time, they saw emotion in his eyes. Not rage, something colder, something older. The look of a man who had hoped for peace and now accepted war. The time for hiding is over. They wanted to know what humanity really is. Let's show them. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the screens one last time. At the burning cities. At the death toll that now read 14 million and was still climbing. Every one of them, he said quietly. I remember every one of them. And so will the Valkyrie. I'll make sure of it. He walked out of the room. Behind him, Colonel Park began sending the codes that would change the galaxy forever. Above Earth, Admiral Kethfrel returned to his command chair, still laughing about the foolish human general and his empty promises. His officers laughed with him. They had conquered 47 species. They had never lost a war. One more primitive world would make no difference. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea what they had awakened. But they would learn. General Marcus Cole had promised them that. And Marcus Cole always kept his promises. The Galactic Concord had existed for 9,000 years. In that time, hundreds of species had joined. Wars had been fought. Empires had risen and fallen. The Great Assembly Chamber on Station Prime had witnessed history more times than any living being could count. But it had never witnessed anything like this. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the central podium, looking out at thousands of alien faces. Some species had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no faces at all, just clusters of sensing organs that served the same purpose. All of them were watching her with expressions she could read, easily enough. Pity, sympathy, the look beings gave to the already dead. The Concord recognizes the representative from Earth, said the speaker, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a spider. You may address the assembly regarding the attack on your homeworld. Elena took a breath. She was 54 years old, a career diplomat who had spent 3 decades building relationships across the galaxy. She had made friends among these species. She had attended their celebrations, learned their customs, earned their trust. Now she watched them look at her like she was a ghost that had not yet realized it was dead. Thank you, Speaker, she said. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this speech for 3 hours while Earth burned. I have a brief statement to read. A murmur ran through the chamber. Usually, species facing extinction gave long speeches. They begged for help. They pleaded for intervention. They tried desperately to convince the other members to risk war with their attackers. Elena's calm announcement of a brief statement confused them. Humanity has been a member of this Concord for 60 years, Elena began. In that time, we have asked for nothing. We have made no territorial claims. We have started no conflicts. We have kept to ourselves, stayed quiet, and tried to be good neighbors to every species we encountered. She paused, looking around the chamber. Some of you wondered why. You saw a species that had developed interstellar travel, that had the resources and population to expand rapidly, choosing instead to remain small and peaceful. Some of you assumed we were weak. Some of you thought we were afraid. Some of you believed we simply lacked the intelligence or ambition to compete with older civilizations. Another pause. The chamber was completely silent now. Today, 12 million of our people are dead. Our cities are burning. The Valkyrie Dominion attacked us without warning, without provocation, without any attempt at negotiation. They did this because they wanted our resources and they believed we could not stop them. Elena looked directly at the Valkyrie ambassador, who sat in a section reserved for major powers. The alien met her gaze with obvious contempt. "They were wrong," Elena said. "And so were all of you who thought we were weak." She pressed a button on the podium. The massive display screen behind her lit up with tactical data. For 60 years, humanity has maintained a secret. We built hidden shipyards in asteroid belts throughout our territory. We constructed defense platforms disguised as mining operations. We developed weapon systems that we never revealed to the Concorde or anyone else. We did this because we studied history. We studied the history of your species, all of you. And we learned that peaceful species rarely survive in this galaxy unless they can defend themselves. The display showed ship after ship emerging from hidden locations. Massive vessels bristling with weapons. Carriers launching fighters by the thousands. Battleships that dwarfed anything the Concorde had ever registered in their military surveys. Some of you wondered why humanity kept such detailed records of galactic conflicts. Why our military theorists studied every war fought in the past 10,000 years. Why we invested so heavily in research and development despite having no obvious enemies. The murmur in the chamber grew louder. Elena could see ambassadors checking their personal displays, verifying the data, trying to understand what they were seeing. "We were being cautious," Elena said. "We were hoping that we would never need to use what we built. We were hoping that the galaxy would leave us alone and we could live in peace." Her voice hardened. The Valkyrie ended that hope this morning. She turned back to face the assembly directly. "I am not here to ask for your help. We do not need it. I am not here to beg for intervention. We can handle this ourselves. I am here to inform you, as a courtesy to our fellow Concorde members, that humanity is now at war with the Valkyrie Dominion. And I am here to assure you that this war will be short." The Valkyrie ambassador stood up, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "This is absurd. A primitive species making threats against the Dominion? Our fleet has already secured their homeworld. Their military capabilities are irrelevant." Elena smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Your fleet secured nothing," she said. "Check your communications, Ambassador. I suspect you will find some distressing news." The Valkyrie ambassador pulled out his communication device. His gray skin went pale. His 4 eyes went wide. He looked up at Elena with an expression she had seen before, on the faces of species who suddenly realized they had made a terrible mistake. "That's impossible," he whispered. "What's impossible?" demanded a nearby ambassador, a beetle-like creature from a species known for their curiosity. Elena answered before the Valkyrie could speak. 30 minutes ago, the human fleet engaged Admiral Kethral's forces in Earth orbit. The battle lasted 12 minutes. The Valkyrie lost 23 capital ships. They are currently in full retreat toward the edge of our system, pursued by vessels they cannot outrun and cannot fight. The chamber erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted questions. Displays flickered with incoming reports. The speaker tried to restore order, but nobody was listening. In his office above Earth, on a small station that had survived the bombardment only because it was protected by shields the Valkyrie had not known existed, General Marcus Cole watched the alien fleet run. The battle had been almost embarrassingly one-sided. Human ships had appeared from hidden positions throughout the solar system. They had surrounded the Valkyrie fleet before the enemy even knew they were there. And then they had begun firing weapons that cut through Valkyrie shields like they were made of paper. Cole had watched Admiral Kethral's flagship take 17 direct hits before its engines failed. He had watched the alien commander send a desperate retreat order to his remaining ships. He had watched the proud Valkyrie fleet scatter like frightened animals. And he had felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. Just the cold weight of duty and the knowledge that this was only the beginning. "Sir," said Colonel Park, who had joined him on the station, We've received a transmission from Admiral Kethral. He's requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms." "Denied," Cole said without hesitation. "Sir, he didn't offer Earth a ceasefire before he killed 12 million of our people. He didn't offer terms before he burned our cities. Why should I offer him anything?" Park was quiet for a moment. "What should I tell him?" Cole turned away from the window. "Tell him that I made him a promise. Tell him that I intend to keep it. Tell him that he can run as far and as fast as he wants, but it won't matter. We will find him. We will find every commander who participated in this attack. And we will show them what happens when you hit Earth first." Park nodded and left to send the message. Cole remained at the window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valkyrie fleet was running for home. Somewhere out there, Admiral Kethral was learning what fear felt like. And somewhere out there, the rest of the galaxy was watching and wondering what humanity would do next. They would learn soon enough. Back on Station Prime, the chaos in the assembly chamber had finally begun to settle. Ambassadors returned to their seats, though many kept checking their displays obsessively, watching for updates on the battle that had apparently ended before most of them knew it had started. The speaker restored order with some difficulty. "Ambassador Vasquez, does humanity intend to pursue this conflict beyond your own system?" Elena nodded slowly. "We do. The Valkyrie struck our homeworld without provocation. Under the laws of this concord, we have the right to respond with appropriate force. We intend to exercise that right fully." "And what does fully mean, Ambassador?" asked a nervous voice from somewhere in the chamber. Elena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, sadder, like someone delivering news they wish they did not have to give. "It means that the Valkyrie Dominion will answer for what they did. It means that their military will be dismantled. It means that the commanders who ordered this attack will face justice. And it means that the galaxy will learn, once and for all, that humanity is not weak. We never were. We simply hoped we would never have to prove it." She looked around the chamber one last time. 60 years ago, when humanity joined this concord, we made a choice. We chose to be quiet. We chose to be peaceful. We chose to hide our strength because we believed that showing it would only invite conflict. We were wrong. Hiding our strength invited attack. The Valkyrie saw our silence and mistook it for fear. They saw our peace and mistook it for weakness. That mistake cost 12 million human lives. Her voice hardened again. We will not make that mistake again. And neither will anyone else. Not after they see what we do to the species that murdered our children." She stepped down from the podium and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, though the war lasted 6 months, it should have lasted years. The Valkyrie Dominion controlled 47 conquered worlds. They had the largest military in their sector of the galaxy. They had fought and won dozens of wars over the past 1,000 years. By every measure of military power, they should have been able to resist a human advance for a decade or more. They lasted 6 months. General Marcus Cole led the campaign personally. He moved his command center from ship to ship, always staying close to the front lines, always watching the battles unfold in real time. His officers had suggested he remain in a secure location far from danger. He had refused. "I sent these soldiers to fight," he said. "The least I can do is share their risk." The first month focused on securing human space. The retreating Valkyrie fleet had left behind small garrison forces on several stations and outposts. Cole's forces swept through them with brutal efficiency, taking prisoners when possible, but showing no hesitation when resistance continued. The second month brought the war to Valkyrie territory. Human ships appeared at the borders of the Dominion and simply kept coming. They hit military installations, shipyards, defensive platforms. They destroyed everything that could be used to wage war and nothing else. That distinction confused the Velthari at first. They had expected the humans to burn civilian populations as revenge for Earth. They had prepared their people for total war, for the complete destruction that the Dominion had inflicted on so many others. Instead, the human ships carefully avoided civilian targets. Cities were left untouched. Agricultural worlds continued their harvests. Civilian shipping was scanned and released. The humans were dismantling the Velthari military with surgical precision while leaving everything else standing. Admiral Kethrol, commanding the Dominion's defense from the fortress world of Kethan 7, could not understand it. Why? He demanded during a council meeting with his remaining commanders. They have the power to destroy us completely. They have every reason to want revenge. Why are they showing restraint? None of his officers had an answer. General Cole could have given them one, had they asked. He was sitting in his quarters aboard the flagship Remembrance, reading casualty reports from the day's engagements. 342 human soldiers dead. Over 6,000 Velthari military personnel killed. A victory by any measure. Cole set down the tablet and closed his eyes. There was a knock at his door. Colonel Park entered without waiting for a response. They had known each other for 20 years, long enough for some formalities to fall away. Sir, the next phase of the operation is ready. We can begin the assault on Kethan 7 within the week. Casualties? Cole asked. Projected losses are minimal. Their defensive grid is strong, but our ships can penetrate it without significant difficulty. We estimate 72 hours to secure the planet. Cole was quiet for a long moment. And their civilian population? 800 million. Mostly workers supporting the military installations. Intelligence suggests they've been told we'll slaughter them when we arrive. There have been reports of mass panic, suicide pacts, parents killing their children to spare them from human torture. Cole's jaw tightened. Torture. We've taken over 10,000 Velthari prisoners so far. Have we tortured any of them? No, sir. They've been treated according to interstellar conventions. Medical care, adequate food, communication with family members when possible. And yet their people believe we will torture them. Cole stood and walked to the small window in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Fear is a terrible thing, Colonel. It makes people believe lies because the truth is too frightening to consider. Sir, the Velthari have spent 1,000 years conquering other species. They've burned worlds. They've enslaved populations. They've committed atrocities that would take centuries to fully document. And they assume we will do the same because that's what they would do in our position. Cole turned back to face Park. That's why they're so dangerous. That's why we have to stop them. Not because they attacked us, but because they'll keep attacking others if we don't. Park nodded slowly. So we continue the campaign? Yes, but we do it our way. We destroy their ability to make war. We dismantle their military completely. And we leave everything else intact. Their cities, their farms, their hospitals, their schools. Everything that matters to ordinary people who never asked for this war. Some would say that's weakness, sir. That we should make them suffer as we suffered. Cole smiled, but there was no humor in it. Some would say that. And those people would be wrong. Weakness is doing harm because you can. Weakness is taking revenge on the innocent because the guilty are hard to punish. Strength is having the power to burn worlds and choosing not to. Strength is breaking only what needs to be broken and leaving everything else standing. He picked up the casualty report again. 342 soldiers died today to give us that choice. The least I can do is make sure their deaths mean something. I won't turn their sacrifice into fuel for genocide. I won't dishonor them by becoming the monster the Velthari expected us to be. The assault on Kethan 7 began 6 days later. The Valkyrie defenders fought with desperate courage. They knew this was their last major stronghold. They knew that if it fell, the war was effectively over. They threw everything they had at the human fleet, holding nothing back. It was not enough. Human ships broke through the orbital defenses in 18 hours. Ground forces began landing on the surface, targeting military installations with precision strikes that left surrounding civilian areas untouched. Valkyrie soldiers fought hard, but found themselves outmatched at every turn. And then something happened that changed everything. A human ground unit, advancing toward a fortified military complex, encountered a group of Valkyrie civilians. They were huddled in a bombed-out building, mostly women and children and elderly, too weak or too slow to flee when the fighting started. They saw the human soldiers approaching and screamed in terror, clutching each other, waiting to die. The human unit commander, a young lieutenant named Sarah Webb, held up her hand to stop her soldiers. "Hold fire," she said quietly. "Sir," said one of her soldiers, "they could be armed. It could be a trap. They're not armed. They're terrified." Webb lowered her weapon and stepped forward slowly, hands visible and empty. She spoke clearly, knowing the translation software in her suit would convert her words to Valkyrie language. "We're not going to hurt you. We're not here for civilians. We're here for the military installation 2 kilometers north. If you stay here and stay quiet, you'll be safe." The Valkyrie stared at her. One of them, an elderly female with faded gray skin and cloudy eyes, spoke in a trembling voice. "You're not going to kill us?" "No, we're not here to kill civilians. We never were. But our leaders said, they said humans were monsters. They said you would burn our world as we burned yours." Webb was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentle but firm. "Your leaders burned our cities. Your leaders killed 12 million of our people. And yes, we have the power to do the same to you. But we won't, because we're not like your leaders. We don't punish children for the crimes of generals. We don't make war on people who never held a weapon." She pointed north. The soldiers in that installation chose to fight. They chose to participate in a war their government started. They are our enemies. You are not. Stay here. Stay safe. When this is over, someone will come to help you." The unit moved on. The Valkyrie civilians watched them go, unable to understand what they had just witnessed. That encounter was recorded by the suit cameras every human soldier wore. Within hours, the footage had spread across the Valkyrie communication networks. Civilians who had been preparing for death saw human soldiers treating prisoners with respect. They saw medics providing care to wounded Valkyrie. They saw weapons lowered and mercy granted. The fear began to crack. Not everywhere and not all at once. But in cities across Valkyrie space, people who had expected human revenge began to wonder if everything they had been told was wrong. They began to wonder if the humans were not monsters after all. General Cole watched the footage in his quarters, alone. He saw Lieutenant Webb's kindness, saw the confusion on the Valkyrie faces, saw the first fragile seeds of something that might someday become peace. And for a moment, just a moment, he allowed himself to hope that this terrible war might end with something other than ashes. Then he turned to the next report, the next battle, the next decision that would cost lives on both sides. Hope was good, but the war was not over yet. There was still work to do, still enemies to defeat, still a promise to keep. He had told Admiral Kethfrel that humanity would show the galaxy what came next. They were still showing. Valthar Prime was the jewel of the Dominion. The homeworld of the Valkyrie species sat at the center of their empire like a spider in its web. Massive orbital stations circled the planet, bristling with weapons. Defense platforms hung in careful patterns, creating overlapping fields of fire that had never been breached. For 1,000 years, No enemy had come within striking distance of Velther Prime. Until now. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 200 capital ships. Thousands of smaller vessels. More firepower than the Veltheri had ever seen gathered in one place. They filled the space around the planet like a storm cloud waiting to break. General Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of the Remembrance, looking at the world he had come to humble. The planet was beautiful, he had to admit. Blue-green oceans. Vast continents covered in cities that sparkled like diamonds. Home to 12 billion Veltheri, most of whom had never held a weapon, never given an order, never harmed anyone. 12 billion. The number sat heavy in his mind. 12 million humans had died on Earth. The mathematics of revenge would demand 12 billion Veltheri in return. An eye for an eye, multiplied by 1,000. "Sir," said Colonel Park, standing beside him, "all ships report ready. We can begin bombardment on your order." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "Sir, no bombardment. Not today. Not ever." Park stared at him. Other officers on the bridge turned to look. Cole ignored them all, keeping his eyes fixed on the planet below. "Open a channel. Broadcast to the entire planet. I want every Veltheri who can hear to receive this message." The communications officer worked quickly. Within seconds, Cole's face appeared on screens across Velther Prime. In homes and workplaces, in government buildings and schools, 12 billion Veltheri stopped what they were doing to watch. Cole spoke slowly, letting the translator software do its work. "People of Velther Prime, I am General Marcus Cole of Earth's United Defense Forces. 6 months ago, your government ordered an attack on my homeworld. Your ships bombarded our cities without warning. 12 million of my people died in a single day. Children, parents, grandparents, people who had never harmed anyone. Killed because your leaders wanted our resources and thought we would not fight back." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I now stand above your homeworld with enough firepower to turn this planet into ash. I have the power to kill every one of you. By the laws of war that your dominion has used for 1,000 years, I have the right. You attacked us first. You killed our innocent. Under your own traditions, I could destroy you completely, and no one in the galaxy would call it unjust." In homes across the planet, Veltheri parents held their children close. Elderly couples clasped hands. Soldiers at their posts wondered if they should fire on the human ships, knowing it would make no difference. The end had come, and there was nothing anyone could do. Cole continued, "But I am not here to teach you that humans can be as cruel as Veltheri. I am not here to prove that we can burn worlds and slaughter billions. Anyone can do that. Any species with sufficient technology can destroy. It requires no special strength. It requires no special wisdom. It requires nothing but the willingness to cause suffering." His voice softened slightly. "I am here to show you something else. I am here to demonstrate that humanity can be better. That we can have every reason for revenge and choose not to take it. That we can hold the power to destroy and choose instead to build." The Veltheri watched in silence. This was not what they had expected. This was not what their propaganda had prepared them for. Your military is broken. Your fleet is destroyed. Your generals have surrendered or fled. The war is over. You have lost. And now you must face the consequences of what your government did. Cole took a breath. "These are our terms. First, every military commander who participated in the attack on Earth will surrender themselves for trial. Not execution, trial, with full legal representation, open proceedings, and sentences determined by an impartial tribunal. Second, your government will pay reparations to rebuild what was destroyed. Not tribute, not slavery. Fair payment for the damage done, negotiated through proper diplomatic channels. Third, your military will be permanently reduced to defensive capabilities only. You will never again have the power to strike another world without warning. He leaned forward slightly. And fourth, you will remember. You will teach your children what happened here. Not lies, not propaganda. The truth. You will tell them that you hit Earth first. You will tell them that humanity had every right to destroy you. And you will tell them that we chose not to. Not because we were weak. Not because we couldn't. Because we decided that ending the cycle of violence was more important than continuing it. Cole straightened. If you accept these terms, this war ends today. Your cities will remain standing. Your people will live. Your children will grow up in peace. If you refuse, he gestured at the fleet surrounding the planet. We can wait. We have time. Eventually, you will accept because there is no other choice. He ended the broadcast. The bridge of the remembrance was silent. Officers looked at each other, uncertain what to say. Some had expected the order to fire. Some had hoped for it after everything they had lost. Watching their commander offer mercy to the people who had murdered millions felt strange. Wrong, somehow. Colonel Park was the first to speak. Sir, are you certain about this? After everything they did. After everything they did, Cole repeated. Yes, that's exactly why. He turned to face his officers. I spent 6 months at war. I've ordered attacks that killed hundreds of thousands of Velthari soldiers. I've watched young men and women under my command die in battles they should never have had to fight. And every single day, I've asked myself what all this death is for. He walked slowly across the bridge. Revenge? That's not good enough. Revenge doesn't bring back the 12 million. It doesn't heal the wounds or rebuild the cities. It just creates more dead, more wounds, more cities to rebuild. If I burn Velthar Prime, the Velthari who survive will hate us forever. They'll rebuild their military in secret, just like we did. They'll wait for their chance. And someday, they'll hit Earth again, and we'll be right back where we started. Cole stopped at the main viewport, looking down at the planet. But if I show them mercy? If I prove that humans don't have to be monsters? Then maybe, just maybe, their children will grow up in a galaxy where humans and Velthari can live in peace. Maybe the cycle ends here today with this choice. And if you're wrong, Park asked quietly, if they see mercy as weakness? If they take it as an invitation to try again? Cole smiled. It was tired and sad but genuine. Then we'll still have our hidden shipyards. We'll still have our weapons. We'll still have everything we need to defend ourselves. I'm not suggesting we become weak, Colonel. I'm suggesting we become strong in a different way. Strong enough to win wars. Strong enough to end them. He turned back to his officers. History remembers the species that conquered. It remembers the empires that burned worlds and enslaved populations. But it also remembers those who had every reason to destroy and chose not to. Those are the species that other civilizations respect. Those are the empires that last. And that's what I want humanity to become. 3 hours later, the Velthari government accepted all terms. Admiral Kethferl was captured 2 days after that, trying to flee in a stolen civilian transport. Human special forces intercepted his ship at the edge of the system and brought him back to Velthar Prime in restraints. He was brought before General Cole in a temporary command center, established in what had been the Dominion's military headquarters. The building was intact, its windows looking out over a city that had not burned, full of people who had not died. Kethferl stood in chains, his 4 eyes filled with hatred. But beneath the hatred, Cole saw something else. Fear. Confusion. The look of someone whose entire understanding of the universe had been proven wrong. You should have destroyed us, Kethferl said. Every other species would have. We would have. I know, Cole said. Is this some kind of trick? Some game humans play with their prey before the killing? No tricks. No games. Just a choice. Kethferl stared at him for a long moment. I don't understand you. I don't understand your species. You had everything you needed for revenge. You had the power, the right, the justification. And you chose mercy. Why? Cole considered the question carefully. Because someone had to break the cycle, he said finally. Someone had to be the first to choose peace over revenge, forgiveness over hatred. It might as well be us. That's weakness, Kethferl spat. Is it? Cole leaned forward. I destroyed your fleet. I dismantled your military. I brought your entire empire to its knees. And then, when I could have burned everything, I chose not to. Which of us is weaker, Admiral? The one who destroys because he can, or the one who chooses not to destroy because he understands there's a better way? Kethferl had no answer. Cole gestured to the guards. Take him to the holding facility. He'll face trial with the others. Fair proceedings. Legal representation. Justice. As they led him away, Kethferl looked back over his shoulder. You're a fool, General. Mercy doesn't change anything. We'll hate you forever. Cole watched him go. 1 year after the bombardment of Earth, the galaxy looked very different. The trial of Admiral Kethferl and 17 other Velthari military commanders had been broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. Billions of beings watched as prosecutors presented evidence of the attack on Earth. They watched as defense attorneys argued for mercy. They watched as judges from 12 different species deliberated and delivered verdicts. Kethferl received life imprisonment. Not death, though the tribunal had the authority to impose it. Life in a facility that would provide him food and shelter and medical care until his last breath. Some called it too lenient. Others called it justice. General Cole attended the verdict announcement but said nothing publicly. He sat in the gallery, watching the proceedings with the same quiet intensity he had shown throughout the war. When reporters tried to interview him afterward, he politely declined. The tribunal spoke for all of us, he said. I have nothing to add. The Galactic Concord convened a special session 3 months after the trial. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the central podium once again, though this time the mood in the chamber was very different. There was no pity in the eyes watching her, no sympathy for a doomed species. Only respect and something that might have been fear. Humanity wishes to address the matter of our future role in this Concord, Elena began. Over the past year, we have received numerous requests for military alliance from member species. We have been asked to serve as protectors, guarantors of security, defenders against aggression. Many of you have watched what we did to the Velthari and concluded that humanity would make a powerful ally. She paused, looking around the chamber. We are declining all such requests. A murmur ran through the assembly. Elena raised her hand for silence. Humanity did not reveal its military capabilities to become the galaxy's police force. We did not win this war to start others. We will defend ourselves and our allies against aggression. We will honor our treaties and commitments, but we will not become the very thing we fought against. We will not use our power to dominate or control. She took a breath. Our ships are returning to their hidden berths. Our weapons are going silent. We will resume our place as a quiet member of this Concord, asking for nothing, threatening no one, and we will hope sincerely that no one ever gives us reason to speak again. She stepped down from the podium. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, applause began. It spread through the assembly until thousands of beings were showing their approval in whatever way their species expressed it. Humanity had done the impossible. They had won a war, shown mercy to their enemies, and then voluntarily stepped back from power. In the long history of the galactic concord, no species had ever done such a thing. On Earth, the rebuilding continued. The cities that had been destroyed were being reconstructed. New buildings rose from the ashes, designed by architects who wanted to create something beautiful from tragedy. Memorials were built in each location, listing the names of every person who had died. The lists were long. Reading them aloud would take days. General Cole, now retired from military service, visited the memorial in Mumbai on the one-year anniversary of the attack. He stood before the wall of names, reading each one silently. Around him, other visitors did the same. Some wept. Some left flowers or small tokens. Some simply stood in silence, remembering. A young officer approached him. She wore the uniform of Earth's Defense Forces, freshly commissioned, too young to have served in the war. "General Cole?" she said hesitantly. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I just wanted to say, I wanted to ask." "Go ahead," Cole said gently. "Why did you show mercy? To the Velthari, I mean. After everything they did." She gestured at the wall of names. "These people deserve justice, revenge, something. Why did you let their killers live?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the names on the wall, thinking about the question, trying to find words that would make sense to someone who had not lived through it. "Do you know what the hardest thing in the world is?" he asked finally. The young officer shook her head. "It's not killing your enemies. That's easy. Point a weapon, pull a trigger, watch them fall. Anyone can do that. Animals can do that." Cole turned to face her. "The hardest thing is having every reason to destroy, every right to take revenge, every justification for cruelty, and choosing not to. The hardest thing is being strong enough to show mercy when mercy seems like weakness." He looked back at the wall. "These people didn't die so I could burn Velthari children in their memory. They died because a cruel government made a terrible choice. And I had to decide whether to answer cruelty with cruelty or to try something different. Something harder. Something that might actually change things. Did it work?" the officer asked. "Did it change anything?" Cole smiled slightly. "We'll see. Change takes time. Generations sometimes. But I've been getting letters from Velthar Prime, from ordinary people who watched the broadcasts, who saw human soldiers show mercy, who realized that everything their government told them about us was wrong. They're asking questions now, wondering why their leaders started a war against people who didn't want to fight, wondering what else they've been lied to about." He pointed at the wall of names. "That's what these people died for. Not revenge. Not destruction. Hope. The hope that someday Velthari children and human children will play together without fear. The hope that this war will be the last one, not the first of many. The hope that we can build something better than what came before." The young officer considered this. "That seems like a lot to hope for." "It is," Cole agreed. "But hope is free. And without it, what's the point of anything?" He walked away from the memorial, leaving the young officer to think about his words. 6 months later, the first Velthari diplomatic delegation arrived on Earth. They came to negotiate trade agreements, cultural exchanges, the beginning of a real relationship between species that had been at war. The meetings were tense at first, filled with suspicion and old wounds that had not fully healed. But they happened. That was what mattered. General Cole did not attend the negotiations. He had retired to a small house in what had once been a crater in Snow Hollow. The crater had been filled and planted with gardens, and Cole spent his days tending flowers that grew where fire had fallen. He was in his garden when he heard the news that the first trade agreement had been signed. He stopped working and stood still for a moment, looking at the flowers, thinking about everything that had led to this point. Children played in a park nearby. He could hear their laughter, mixing with the calls of birds and the rustle of wind through leaves. Some of those children were survivors of the attack, orphans who had been adopted by families who wanted to give them a new start. Some were from other countries, brought to Snow Hollow by parents who wanted to be part of the rebuilding. And some, he knew, were the children of Volturi diplomats, learning to live among the species their government had tried to destroy. They played together without fear, without hatred, just children being children, unaware of the history that had shaped their world. Cole watched them for a long time, and for the first time since the war began, he felt something he had almost forgotten how to feel. Peace, not the absence of conflict. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you made the right choice, even when it was the hardest choice. The kind that comes from seeing hope become reality. He had promised Admiral Kethvril that humanity would show the galaxy what came next. This was what came next. Gardens where craters had been. Laughter where screams had echoed. Children playing where parents had died. Life continuing, not despite the tragedy, but because of what they had chosen to build from it. Cole smiled, something he rarely did these days. Then he went back to his flowers, nurturing new life in soil that remembered fire, in a world that was learning to remember something else. Not revenge, not hatred, just the simple, profound truth that even in the darkest moments, there is always another way, always a choice, always hope.